Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties, education, and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
The Supreme Court decided to take the ObamaCare case. I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. We'll talk about it today on Faith and Freedom. Joining me is Rena Lindevaldsen, special counsel for Liberty Counsel. Rena, the United States Supreme Court decided to take the ObamaCare case, and they have taken the case out of Florida with the 26 states. Liberty Counsel's case, Liberty University versus Geithner, is currently being held by the Supreme Court until that decision is ultimately handed down. But we'll talk about some of the specifics. The good news is that the court has decided to take it, and amazingly, they've set the case for 5.5 hours of oral argument when the normal is 1 hour total. This is 5 times the normal, the longest oral argument in modern history of the U.S. Supreme Court.
Given the issues involved, though, and when I think about this case, this is significant. I think it's a turning point for our nation. We're going to actually have a case that's going to decide, are we going to rein in the national government because it's overstepped its bounds and recognize states' rights, the 10th Amendment rights that exist here, or are we going to allow essentially an unlimited expansion of the federal government, which only deprives our liberty in the long run?
That's right. I mean, this is really a huge turning point in the future of America. If we ultimately cross that threshold and say that Obamacare is upheld, what that means is the Commerce Clause, not taxing and spending, because, they can tax you on a lot of things and spend money on things you don't like. But the Commerce Clause regulates our engagement in interstate commerce, buying and selling, purchasing goods, and so forth. But this would be a situation where you refuse to purchase a good. You don't want to purchase health insurance, so you don't want to engage in that market. And yet the government says, no, we're going to force you because we think it's best for everybody that you engage in this market that you don't want to engage in. In other words, we, the government, the federal government, can force you, the individual, to purchase a particular product, this case health insurance, but in other cases, whatever we decide, because we think it's best for the country.
I think we have to appreciate the irony here. And in a culture right now that's all about personal privacy and personal freedoms and how dare the government intrude on anybody's homes, bedrooms, and whatnot, this is a situation where the national health care, Obamacare, reaches into your home. You're sitting there on your couch saying, I'm not going to buy health insurance. They can't force me. I'm going to reach into your pockets, take some money out, and say you have no choice or we're going to fine you. Where's the personal freedom and privacy in that decision? It's unprecedented.
It's unprecedented. I mean, we just never have gone this way before. And there's some Supreme Court cases that say that if Congress never exercised a certain kind of authority, it's good indication that Congress never had that authority. Everybody agrees that this is novel and unprecedented, that Congress has never attempted in the history of the 235 plus or so years of our country that they have attempted to force you to buy something. And here, they're forcing you to buy a specific health insurance product. Now, you might say, well, I want to have natural remedies. I'm opposed to having any kind of medicine. Well, no, you're going to have to buy this insurance. I'm wanting to manage my own health insurance. I want to just treat myself. I want to save my own money. I don't want insurance. No, we're going to force you to buy this insurance. That's why it's so unprecedented, and that's why I think the court has set 5.5 hours. Now, if you look at the 2000 election case with the Gore versus Bush case, Bush versus Gore, that was a couple of hours, maybe at the most 3. I don't recall off the top of my head. And there was another election case that might have been 3. This is 5.5 hours, which is 5 times plus longer than any case in our lifetime.
Yeah, and again, I just go back to the significance of this, and I think it's important to point out, look, we understand there's an issue with people needing health care. So it's not about is there a problem that needs to be fixed in this country. It's about who's supposed to try to fix that problem and who's responsible for it. And if we allow our national government to expand in this fashion, the significant way it's expanding, there's no stopping the national government. And in the long run, it threatens our liberties. And we have to understand that connection, and it has to be stopped now.
That's right. Well, what the court is going to do is there's one case out of Florida, and that's the 26 states. And that came out of the Florida case, but 26 states joined on to that. So over half of the states in that one case. And the National Federation of Independent Businesses, they were also a plaintiff. They filed two separate petitions to the U.S. Supreme Court. The states challenged the individual mandate and the Medicaid provisions. And then the NFIB challenged the severability issue. Well, the court has granted review on those issues, individual mandate and Medicaid, and also severability. Our case, Liberty University, also had what's called the Anti-Injunction Act. And I don't want to get too technical with that. Bottom line is, if it's a tax and taxpayers are involved, before you challenge the actual statute, you have to pay the tax and ask for a refund before you ultimately file suit. In other words, if you don't like how government is taxing you on your private taxes, you can't just preemptively file a suit. You have to find out what the difference is between what the refund is and what you disagree with, and then you file suit on that. Well, if that's the case here, it means you couldn't file suit until 2014 or thereafter when the individual mandate actually goes into effect and you have a penalty. So that's an issue that has to be resolved, and that was front and center in our case. What the court is also going to do here is have the Florida case address that as part of the case. So we'll be certainly filing briefs. We'll work with the attorney who is going to be arguing the case for the Florida case, Paul Clement, former Solicitor General of the United States, and under the Bush administration, George W. Bush, an excellent top quality litigator at the U.S. Supreme Court. You can't get much better than Paul Clement. So I'm glad he's on the case. But we'll be very involved in it. And this is the most important, I think, case to come down with regards to the role and the impact of the federal government in our lifetime.
Yeah, and the fact that they've taken the case that's involving the states, I think, is significant in the sense that the states are actually where more of the power is supposed to be lodged with regard to government. Our Constitution lists very few powers, about 18 powers the national government has. The states have that authority to experiment, try different healthcare systems, figure out what works for their people and what their people want, and then we learn from each other. That's the experimentation that our system was built on that was going to most promote and flourish liberty. To have a national system that says this is how it's going to work and to be all fit for everybody, it discourages the kind of experimentation our founders wanted in this system. So I'm glad to see the states challenging this, and I hope that the court is going to do the right thing and uphold the 10th Amendment rights of these states. Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, one of the complaints of the states is that they are being forced by the federal government to do something they don't want to do. Mm-hmm. And, in fact, it actually is devastating to them financially. It'll literally implode much of the states' budgets. So really, if this is upheld, two things happen. The federal government is no longer a limited government as it relates to the states because now they have essentially a police power over the states and can dictate to the states what they otherwise were not able to do. And then secondly, they can do the same thing to individuals. So essentially they become the all-powerful government, something that the founders never intended. Yeah, absolutely. And then again, I know for a moment we think that this is not so bad. There's a problem that needs to be fixed. But you may like that today. But tomorrow when the government comes knocking on your door and says, by the way, I'm going to take this money or I'm going to force you to do this or we think this is what's best, you have no ground to challenge that because over here you ceded that authority to the government. You can't stop them. That's right. It's like, for example, well, some people say, well, right now you have Medicare or Medicaid. True, but you don't have to accept it. You have a voluntary choice to accept it or not. You can opt in or opt out. Now, if you accept Medicare, then you have to go by Medicare's rules. But if you don't accept Medicare, you can have your own insurance. This is forcing you to have a specific kind of insurance. And today it's insurance. Tomorrow it could be literally broccoli or some kind of health food. You could have the government say certain kinds of food are more healthy than others. We're going to force you to buy these and not these others. And they could also force you to join a health club. They could force you to buy a motor vehicle of a certain kind. They could literally force you to do everything. What the power would be in the federal government at this point would be absolutely unlimited. Yeah, often several issues lately I'm reminded of a quote by Ben Franklin. And after they formed the constitutional form of government we have now, they were asked by somebody outside the convention, what have you given us? And the answer was a Republican form of government if you can keep it. And that's what this is all about, a Republican form of government with limited enumerated powers to the national government. Can we keep it? Or are we going to let 9 people in the Supreme Court dictate for us that you're not going to keep it? Well, it'll come down right in the middle of election year. The case is going through briefing as we speak.
An oral argument will be sometime in early 2012 with a decision by the end of the court's term, which is the end of June of 2012, right in the midst of the election cycle. This will be front and center. Liberty Counsel has been on the forefront of this, filing the very first private lawsuit on the very first day that it was actually signed into law. Give us a call at Liberty Counsel. Pray for this case. You can also help Liberty Counsel to be supportive of this case financially. And you can go to Liberty Counsel's website to do so. You can call us 1-800-671-1776. You can also order the book, Take Back America. It talks about the Declaration of Independence and the government that the founders actually envisioned. You can order the book right there on the website at lc.org or call us today at 1-800-671-1776.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.